Right, you're welcome back. We're still talking about the state of the economy and especially the runnings of the NNPCL, the admittance of the indebtedness to marketers and what it means for our economy. We have been speaking with a very senior economist, Dr. Paul Alaje. Doctor, you talked about, I asked the question the other time about the transparency. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, in his reaction to these matters said, maybe the NNPCL should be listed. The stock exchange, maybe that will help with the transparency. Do you think there is a viable option?
Exactly what I just said. So you cannot have a company of that size. Do you know how much Saudi Aramco brings to the government of Saudi? A lot. So we cannot say we have a government, an agency of government that is doing very poorly, that's actually making losses, and we are running it like a parastatal. No, it's not possible. It's not visible. So if you list it, then that would be the way to go. But I am even saying that start with 5 to 10% of the sales of shares. Don't start with 40 or 50. So you see how shareholders, we demand for accountability and transparency. It cannot be an NPCL and the hell has no meaning. It cannot be. That's exactly my point.
But do you think the NNPCL will want to do this? I mean, speaking to listing the NNPCL on the public.
Question, yeah.
NNPCL, we have no option than, because it does not own itself. So if government truly wants to generate some revenues, and government wants it to have a better of clarity and accountability than NPCL, the low-hanging fruit, the easier window for that to be done is to put it on the exchange for listing.
Yeah.
Then we can have some Nigerians invest in NNPCL. Then we can say that truly we know what is going on regarding the corporation or the organization.
Yeah. Before Evelyn, we take the conversation forward. You talked about the effect of having, the ways and means thing, printing of money, because I remember during the last administration of President Buhari, some persons talked about the fact that under this administration, then money is being printed. I remember the governor of Edo State, the outgoing governor now, Governor Obaseki, said for sure he knew that money is being printed and spent, anyhow. The handlers of the government then came for him, possibly doing their duty at the time. All of a sudden, at the end of the day, when he left, the secret was there, and you are saying maybe this is the situation now as well. What would be the effect if actually this is still what is being done?
Well, I am not thinking that did we print money. I know that we have printed money.
Now,
and we may still be printing money, I tell you. So printing money in economy does not mean you go to printing press and print money. You can actually create money from thin air in economics. Now, when you organize ways and means, what government has not earned, and you say you give them advances, to the point that you now securitize the advances with the debt management office, going to 20 trillion naira plus. You have printed money. As I talk to you, it's being pushed. There is a push that ways and means should increase from 5% to 10% of what government has not made based on previous year's earning. I can tell you that again, we have a detrimental effect. Stay with me. Let me show you what effect it will be when you print money. I haven't known that we are printing money. Now, this is a bottled water. If you can just show viewers at home so that they can understand what this means. I don't know if you can allow people to see the, hello, are you there?
Yes, we are with you.
Okay, if your team can just project this bottled water, I want to use it as an illustration for people at home to understand. So for this bottled water, if the cost of this bottled water, for instance, is 100 naira, and we only have 10 of this bottled water in an economy, and the cost of each of them is 100 naira. That means the total worth of the economy is 1,000 naira. So all the monies in the economy can only buy 10 units of bottled water. Now, if you print more money and the goods in the economy remain the same, there are no increased productivity. What you are saying is that if you print more money, say now that instead of 1,000 you have in the economy, now you have 1,500. As a matter of the shortest period of time, this bottled water will become 1,500 because people will now have more money. Inflation will set in. And that is by 50%. So when you print money and productivity is not increasing, don't worry, price would increase. So we keep increasing money supply, and central bank will be wondering, why is money supply going up? Because you are printing the money. That is why money supply is increasing. And product and productivity actually remain the same. So if it remains the same, what will happen to price? Price will go up. So that's exactly the situation. If we continue to print, which we did in the last 7 years, substantial amount of money, hundreds of trillions, we have no option but to be faced with high inflation. Do we want to stop that? Well, from the last available information, we are considering to even increase ways and means from 5 to 10%. And if government is not able to pay back, what we are saying is that we might as well print money. Quantitative easing is a strategy that should be done with a lot of caution. Around the world, especially in African countries and South American countries, leaders continue to print. One subject that has confused many economies the most is the concept of inflation, the subject of inflation. Many nations don't know how to handle it. Many nations found their economy and currency in turmoil because of inflation. They don't even know how it starts. So rather, they look at inflation from non-monetary perspective. Even those in monetary authority around the world, even though some have really proven themselves to have deep understanding, rooted understanding of monetary inflation. But to a large extent, most nations that was put, over 70% of them are using old, traditional, non-functional, dysfunctional method that was obtainable before President Richard Nixon of Nixon, I beg your pardon, of America took American off-gold standard. That the moment that decision was made in 1971, when America was taking off-gold standard, solving inflationary pressure or problem cannot just be from a non-monetary angle again. It has to be purely a monetary effect. A monetary solution must also be provided. And one way not to go is to float your currency. If you do that 10 times out of 10 times, you will really be having issue, except you become a net exporter of things, except the rest of the world depends on you. Even in China, that devalues as a net exporter, which are actually qualified to be so, they have another currency benchmarked against the dollar. But Nigeria, we are holier than thou. We believe we can float. And when you devalue what you have done, you have not devalued your currency. You have actually devalued the worth of your citizen, the worth of your export, the worth of your earnings, the worth of your capacity. So the valuation is about worth. Do we want to worth more or we want to worth less as a people?
Thank you so much, Dr. Alaje, for that illustration. I'm sure even the layman would understand the concept of inflation at this time and how it sets in an economy. Thank you so much. Now let's move into the smuggling, the issue of the smuggling of premium motor spirit, also called petroleum. The Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Inekin Lopobri, has given a directive that the NNPCL must begin to sell petrol above the landing cost, which currently stands at 1,170 naira per litre, to prevent the smuggling of products to neighboring countries. You know, it is said that Nigeria sells petrol at 700, 800 naira to a litre, but in countries like the Republic of Benin, petrol sells at 1,700, 1,650 to a litre. So the minister thinks making the NNPCL sell at above the landing cost will reduce the profit gap of those who are smuggling from Nigeria to neighboring countries. But people are saying that, does this not mean that Nigerians would have to suffer for with this new directive by the minister, if we are to increase, or NNPCL to increase the landing cost to above 1,117 naira per litre? What is your take on this? And do you think the ministry could have handled this differently?
Politicians are wise in their own ways. Politicians are wise in their own ways. The argument you presented is at best a fallacy. So I don't want to be giving you classification of the fallacy that the minister said. We are not in Republic of Benin. The comparison is poor. Do you know there are countries in the world that are selling less than 300, 400, 500 naira per litre? And they are oil producing countries. We are producer of these products. They don't have it in the country you mentioned. They don't. So our cases are not the same. You cannot compare Nigeria. No, the minister that wants to prevent smuggling should prevent theft of crude oil. That's it. You cannot select the one that is convenient for you and leave the other unprevented. It doesn't work like that. Besides, let's not face smuggling. Does it mean that if you have an headache and you know maybe it's blood vessel or something, you just take out blood from your head until you drain your own blood? That medicine was applicable before. We call it blood-letting medicine. You know what happened? Most of the patients that were treated by letting out their blood in order to remove terminal disease, they all died. That's not the way to go. Economic thinking has advanced beyond that. And you really don't need deep economic thinking to solve this problem. There are smugglers, that means you have information. So where? Republic of Benin. Can you man all the entries to Republic of Benin? Which agencies in charge? We have the customs, we have immigration, we have the police, we have the civil defense, we have the military, we have the Air Force. Are you saying that these agencies of government, our vibrant men, cannot prevent? Because you cannot teleport PMS from Nigeria to Republic of Benin. It is not a tin of milk that you can put in your pocket and bring it out in Republic of Benin. It's not even your handsets. It's not your luggage. We are talking of 40,000 or 33,000 at the minimum truck load of PMS. Are you saying you cannot prevent that? I don't know how to think about this. That the way to go is by removing shortfall and sell above the landing cost. Well, it has an implication. The implication is hunger. The implication is deprivation. The implication is high inflation. The implication is poverty.
So you're saying that this directive by the minister is like killing a fly with a sledgehammer. This is not the way to go.
Of course, it is. It is. It is what it is. It is. It's not the best approach to adopt. What we should have done is to prevent smuggling. That's what we should have done. And all trucks in Nigeria, they're expected to have trackers. You know where they are. There should be devices to demobilize them when they leave the shores of Nigeria. Not just when they leave the shores of Nigeria. If a particular tracker is to supply a PMS to Osun, we can monitor it. That's what serious countries have done. We can monitor it. If it goes out of Osun State and we are seeing it in Odo State from Lagos, then it should be demobilized. It should stop at the station. It should even be showing us, you see, this is not 1991. This is not 1989. We can see the movement of the truck. Even though truck method of moving crude is not the best. The best is pipelines. But since we feel that, the vandals are stronger, we don't want to combat them, we don't want to fight them, then we resort to trucks. Now we are saying that because some people As smuggling, the best thing to do is to sell PMS above 1,000. The implication is that cost of rice would increase above 80,000 for local, because foreign is already 115, 120. What we are saying is that to barb your air that is between 1,000 to 1,500, we increase to about 2,500. But leave all of those things and stay with the cost of transport. We are saying cost of transport should increase above about 20 to 30%. What happens to income? You are going to see very shortly the NMAs of this world, the ASU of this world, and eventually the NLC of this world. We have another round of, we no go gree, we want more salaries. This is running a cycle that has no end. And I've told you before, if you calculate what the minister is saying, the landing cost is in the dollars. True or false? The answer is true. Let that dollar be fixed. Let it be pegged.
All right.
Then we will have a sigh of relief.
Go ahead.
What we are all paying for is pass-through effects. We are paying for pass-through effects, but also paying for devaluation.
All right.
Because are you saying that the cost of PMS in country of imports has increased by this percent? And I need listeners and viewers around the world, and especially Osun State, to pay attention to this. Are we saying the cost of PMS increased in their own country or countries of origin from 185 or 200 that it was sometime last year, January? Are we saying that the impact has increased by 500%? Which country has increased the cost of their PMS by 500% that is exporting to us? Why is landing cost increasing by over 500% in Nigeria? Have you thought about it? Why is it increasing by over 500%? If not because of pass-through, if not because of exchange rate.
But doctor, this might just be some sort of digression. There's this argument that Nigeria pays the lowest when it comes to the price of PMS in West Africa, that other countries pay much more than Nigeria pays. I mean, the people in government have used this as an argument.
So I have said that when you compare, so you see, these arguments are very appalling. They are very disturbing. You can use this argument for non-economists. Economists, you cannot clap with one hand. You need both hands to clap. So you need to ask which of these countries is producing crude. And when you compare us to Saudi Arabia, what is the income level in Saudi? What is minimum wage in Saudi? What is minimum wage in Dubai? What is minimum wage in Germany? What is minimum wage in Russia? What is minimum wage in Nigeria? You cannot select arguments where it benefits you. That is clapping with one hand. You have to clap to make sound with both hands. It does not work.
Interesting, Doctor.
That's the situation. It doesn't work.
Yeah. 3 questions from our end as we are lowering the sail right now. Number 1, you talked about tracking and of these vessels, of these tankers and the rest of them. And yeah, very instructive. To say this is not 1989 or 1991 or even year 2000. There have been, it's a known fact that the Aramco of this world in Saudi Arabia, that every ounce, every drop of oil can be calculated, can be accounted for. The question is this in Nigeria. You talked about trackers on vessels, on tankers. In fact, some of the tanker drivers, Pengas, and they are complaining about bad roads already, that the infrastructures are not there. Number 1 is this: who should be in charge of this thing, this tracking, this transparency that you are talking about? Who should be in charge? That's number 1. Number 2 is this: many persons have said there is this unusual practice of president sitting as a petroleum minister, that it hasn't helped. Former President Buhari was there for 80 years. What improvement came? Apart from maybe the later end of the National Assembly when the PIA was done. Okay, President Tinubu now is still the petroleum minister. Yes, he's being flanked left and right by Peripe Yepo and Anike Lokobiri for gas and for petrol. Do you think that's a distraction? They should answer the president. He has no business with that. because many have said maybe because of the cash cow nature of the petroleum sector, that's why the president is there to make sure things are being organized. But they will say this is not the case. Maybe they should answer and find somebody else that can be trustworthy. That's number two. And number three is this: the issue of this financial strain, this admittance by the NNPLC. So this is where we are. And because we are indebted, it may affect, circulation, it may affect the free flow of this particular petroleum product. What does this mean? I'm talking about perception, because we have this culture, either conventional or unconventional. The moment there is just an appearance of a disruption in the ecosystem, you see people going for hoarding, you see people, increasing and inflating the prices. Are we expecting that as well? 3 questions, Doctor.
Well, I don't know. Too many questions at the same time.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, sir, that already I was in Abuja yesterday, and what I saw regarding Q was I witnessed similar things, just before President Tinubu had announced subsidy removal. So if subsidy has been removed and the Q remains the same, then I wonder what we actually removed, because the reason for removal, even though that was government claim, was that the queue is too much. It's affecting supply. If we remove subsidy, there will be no need for us to have supply concerns. And I've said, no, that's not how to solve supply problem. You only solve supply problem by producing. Take your destiny off countries we are dependent on for imports. Produce locally. So if you don't produce locally, then you cannot solve the problem. Issue of hoarding. We are humans. And with human being is tendencies to want to be self-centered, greediness. I don't know if it's only animals, but I don't know if plants are also greedy. Well, those who studied botany, maybe they read things about it, or those who read about animals can discuss. But my study is purely social science. And as an economist, I can tell you that it comes with the package. And that is why we have government, to ensure that policies are made to discourage hoarding. But why do we hoard? We hoard because there is scarcity, or there is an information, there is an expectation that the resources will be scarce. Then people hoard. So how should we solve it? It's simple. Produce locally. If you have refineries working, why do you want to hoard what is in excess? Can you hoard air that you breathe? You cannot, because it's not necessary. It's abundant, it's sufficient. So people will hoard when they have a sense that the product may be insufficient. And with hoarding and long queue brings room for corruption. So what we need to guarantee first is supply. And I've said it is on YouTube, is on my Twitter page. We must guarantee supply first. If we don't guarantee supply, we are just joking. At best, when we notice that we are not making more in revenue, we may further devalue the naira. And when we further devalue, prices locally will go up. Is that not a roller coaster of some sort? I don't know if there are more questions regarding what you said before, so that I can further clarify.
How about the president sitting tight as the Minister of Petroleum?
Yes,
what does he bring?
Yes. So for me, that is purely political. And, as an economist, I try to stay within the field, within the profession. But I will say something to it. If we have a minister in the president, and while the president says, oh, I want to combine these two, and we can see the effect, honestly and sincerely, we will not have problem with it, functionality. But I can tell you that in the past recent years, at least 1 decade ago, that most presidents sat, I think apart from Jonathan during President Buhari, we have a substantive minister of, we don't have substantive minister of petroleum. I can tell you that whosoever the president is, to govern this nation alone is a lot of work. So if you must be petroleum minister, then we should see you performing as one. But if what you want to get is reports, up-to-date reports, or for some political reasons, and we are still not having the impact, I don't think it's sufficient reasons for presidents to be ministers or for them not to be. To my mind, what I think we should do is, no matter who become the petroleum minister, whether the president or anybody, if we don't have a transparent oil and gas sector, a functional oil and gas sector, whosoever is there will not perform. So, and the first step to that is for NNPCL to be listed, is for us to do everything to promote transparency. Coming president, no matter what you say, whether you are minister or you are not a minister, you can't be minister over a non-functional entity or an entity that is underperforming. We can't be minister over an entity that claimed he made 3 trillion naira, but few weeks after or less than 2 weeks after came up to say, sorry, we actually owing. It does not agree, it does not align. So not to sound political or become a politician, for me, whosoever becomes the minister should also be based on the yardstick, should also be graded on the yardstick as a minister. So if presidents don't want to be graded as a minister, then they have no business in the first instance declaring themselves as the Minister of Petroleum.
All right, would like to thank you especially Dr. Paul Alaje, Senior Economist at SPM Professionals, for your submission, and the education you brought this morning. I'm sure our viewers have been educated on some, economics this morning. Economics is kind of hard, especially when you bring the jargons together and people are trying to make sense of what it is, because what people really want is food on their table and money in their pockets. But thank you so much for joining us from the commercial capital of the nation, Lagos.
Thank you so very much for having me, and have a blessed day ahead.
You too.
You too. The economics 201, that's not 101, because that's not basic. The ways and means, the bottle and the water explanation with the printing of money and how it's helping or how it is not helping. We must hold ourselves accountable from this side of the desk to the other side of the screen. Everybody must do whatever is necessary, and whatever you have been committed to do, especially people at the end of affairs, we must make sure our people enjoy, if actually they have to, of which they have to, especially being an oil producing nation. Sometimes these things are ironic. You can't even fathom it. You buy it very high, very costly, very expensive. It's not even easy to go by. Now that the information is out, that the supply might be disrupted because of the indebtedness, that just we say, how is that my fault? How should I pay for that? Some of these concerns have been addressed this morning and the way to go. We will be back for this program tomorrow, God willing. FEMI Ojo is my name. Please stay true and stay alive.
And my name is EVELYN, OHIOLEI, and like I always say, that Nigeria will and must work in our own time. It's left in our hands to do what we must do. We'll see you tomorrow for another interesting edition of Morning Spring. Have yourself a good and productive day. Bye.